The door didn't slam when my sister left. That's what stayed with me. No rushing footsteps. No last-minute reminders. Just the soft click of the lock sliding into place, too calm, too final. I stood in the narrow hallway of her house, my overnight bag still by my feet, listening as her and her husband's laughter faded down the driveway. A cruise. 7 days of sun and champagne. They'd hugged Lily quickly, waved at me like I was a neighbor, not family, and disappeared. I told myself I was overthinking. I always did. At 22, I was still the good sister. The dependable one. The one who never said no. Babysitting my niece felt normal. Safe. Lily had always been quiet, sweet, living in her own gentle world. Doctors said she was born mute. Mara said it with pride sometimes, like it made her a martyr. I walked into the kitchen, trying to shake the unease settling in my chest. On the counter sat a mug of tea. Steam curled upward, carrying the scent of chamomile and honey. My sister's favorite. She'd placed it there deliberately before leaving, pressing it into my hands with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Drink this once we're gone," she'd said. "It'll help you sleep. You look exhausted." I remember laughing. "Since when do you care about my sleep?" She laughed too, but too fast. Now, alone in the house, the silence pressed down on me. Lily sat at the kitchen table, her small feet dangling off the chair, fingers tracing invisible patterns on the wood. She didn't look at the TV. She didn't look at me. She was watching the mug. "Sweetheart," I said gently, lifting it. "Want to watch a movie?" The mug was warm against my palms. That's when I heard it. A sharp intake of breath. Lily's head snapped up. Her eyes were wide, not curious, not confused, but afraid. Panic flooded her face in a way no 8-year-old should know how to show. She stood so suddenly her chair scraped loudly against the floor. My heart jumped. "Lily?" She took a step toward me. Then another. Her hands were shaking. And then, before I could speak again, she said it. Clear. Perfect. Steady. "Auntie, don't drink the tea Mom made." The world tilted. The mug slipped from my fingers and shattered at my feet, hot liquid splashing across the tiles. I barely felt it. My ears rang. My chest tightened so hard I couldn't breathe. I stared at Lily. Not at her hands. Not at the broken mug. At her mouth. "Mommy," plotted, she whispered. I dropped to my knees in front of her, my heart pounding so loud it felt like it might expose us both. "Lily," I said, my voice trembling. "You can talk?" Tears spilled down her cheeks. She nodded, pressing her hands over her mouth like she'd broken a rule she couldn't take back. "She says I shouldn't," Lily whispered. "She says it's our secret." The house felt colder then. The silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It was hiding something. And in that moment, with shattered porcelain at my feet and my niece shaking in my arms, I realized something terrible. The door hadn't just closed behind my sister. She'd locked us inside something she never intended us to escape. I didn't sleep that night. Lily curled up beside me in the guest bed, her small body tense even in rest, as if fear had become muscle memory. Every time the house creaked, she flinched. Every time I moved, her fingers tightened in my shirt. I stared at the ceiling, replaying her words over and over until they burned. "Don't drink the tea," Mom plotted. By morning, shock gave way to something heavier, understanding. I made breakfast like nothing had happened. Pancakes. Strawberries. Normal sounds. Normal smiles. Lily spoke only when we were alone, and even then she whispered, eyes darting toward doors, walls, shadows. "Years of silence don't disappear overnight." "Why didn't you tell anyone?" I asked gently. She shrugged. "Mommy said bad things happen if I talk." That was my first lesson. Silence isn't always an ability. Sometimes it's survival. While Lily colored at the table, I started noticing what I'd never questioned before. Prescription bottles in the bathroom cabinet, none with Lily's name on them, all addressed to Mara. Thick medical folders stuffed into a drawer that didn't belong to Lily either. Therapy invoices for conditions Lily never showed. My hands shook as I opened an old laptop my sister had left behind. The password was easy. She'd never believed I'd look. Email after email unraveled the lie. Messages to doctors exaggerating symptoms. Private notes thanking one specialist for playing along. Bank alerts marked insurance and disability support. My sister wasn't caring for a mute child. She was selling a story. And Lily was the product. Then I found the messages between Mara and her husband. They weren't about love. They weren't even about Lily. They were about money. "How long can we keep this going?" he wrote. "Until we're secure," Mara replied. "And your sister?" "She's convenient. She trusts me." I felt sick. I had defended her for years. Covered for her missed birthdays. Loaned her money I never got back. Believed her tears when she said life was hard. But betrayal cuts deepest when it's familiar. Lily sat beside me on the couch as I read, her small fingers gripping the sleeve of my sweater. "She told me you don't need to stay long," Lily said quietly. She said Auntie is temporary. Temporary. That word shattered something in me. I wasn't family to my sister. I was a tool. The tea made sense now. Mara had been careless before she left, too sweet, too attentive. She'd wanted me calm. Groggy. Unaware. Something to explain away if things went wrong. A fall down the stairs. An allergic reaction. An accident. And Lily? A silent witness. I looked at my niece, this brave, terrified child forced to carry adult secrets, and anger bloomed, slow and controlled. Not rage. Not chaos. Clarity. I kissed Lily's forehead. "You did nothing wrong," I said firmly. "Nothing." Her eyes filled with tears. "Will Mommy be mad?" I swallowed hard. Mommy made choices. And choices have consequences. That was the moment I stopped being just the younger sister. That was the moment I became something my sister never expected. Aware. And blood, I realized, doesn't mean loyalty. Sometimes, it just means you're closer to the knife. I didn't confront my sister. Not yet. People think strength is loud, shouting, accusations, dramatic exits. But I'd learned something important from Lily: silence, when chosen, can be powerful. So I stayed quiet. When Mara called from the cruise, her voice light and careless, I answered like the obedient younger sister she believed me to be. I told her Lily was fine. I said the tea helped me sleep. I laughed at her jokes. I played my role so well that even I felt sick listening to myself. Meanwhile, I watched. I learned the rhythm of the house, the way Mara hid things in plain sight. The drawer she never locked. The cabinet behind the cereal boxes. The habit of leaving her phone unattended when she showered. At night, after Lily fell asleep, I gathered pieces of truth like broken glass, careful not to cut myself. I photographed medical records that didn't match Lily's condition. I saved emails where Mara described symptoms Lily never had. I recorded voicemail messages meant for lawyers, not family. Every file felt heavier than the last. Lily and I developed our own language, not whispered, not fearful, but deliberate. I told her she could speak when she wanted, but never felt forced. Choice mattered now. "She listens at doors," Lily told me one evening, chewing slowly on her dinner. "She gets mad if I talk to myself." My chest tightened. "Does she hurt you?" Lily shook her head. "No. She scares me. Fear can shape a child more cruelly than bruises." I began documenting that too: school notes, therapy inconsistencies, videos of Lily speaking clearly when relaxed, laughing freely when unafraid. Proof not meant for revenge, but for truth. The hardest part was pretending nothing was wrong. When Mara returned from the cruise, she hugged me tightly, eyes scanning my face like she was searching for cracks. I smiled back, steady, calm. Lily stood beside me, silent again, trained too well. Mara's relief was almost visible. "She's been good?" she asked. "Perfect," I replied. That night, I cried silently in the bathroom, hands pressed to my mouth. Betrayal isn't always explosive. Sometimes it's quiet grief, the kind that aches behind your eyes while you wash your face and carry on. Weeks passed. Mara grew careless. Confidence does that to liars. She talked too much. Complained about money. Mentioned papers she was waiting on. I listened, nodded, and stored every word. I reached out to people without revealing myself. Doctors. School counselors. A legal aid organization. I didn't accuse. I asked questions. Calm ones. Patterns began to form. And Lily changed. With safety, her voice grew stronger. She laughed louder. She started singing softly while brushing her teeth, like she was reclaiming pieces of herself one note at a time. One night, she looked up at me and asked, "Are we doing something bad?" I knelt in front of her, meeting her eyes. "No. We're telling the truth." She nodded slowly. "Mommy doesn't like truth." I exhaled. Some people don't. But truth doesn't disappear just because someone hates it. That's when I understood, I wasn't waiting for the right moment to strike. I was waiting for the truth to be undeniable. Silence wasn't my weakness anymore. It was my shield. And soon, it would become my weapon. By the time Mara returned from her week-long cruise, I was no longer the timid, trusting younger sister she had left behind. I smiled when she walked in, the same warm, innocent smile she had relied on to keep her comfortable, but inside, I was calm, precise, and patient. Lily was different too. She no longer flinched at doors or whispered like a secret could kill her. She spoke softly now, and sometimes clearly enough to surprise even me. The courage in her eyes mirrored the strategy forming in mine. Mara never suspected. She chatted about her trip, about the sun, the champagne, how relaxed she felt, how her husband had been so charming. I nodded and laughed at the right moments, pretending to be the oblivious aunt she thought I was. Meanwhile, I set my plan in motion. It wasn't dramatic. There were no confrontations, no shouting. Revenge, true, satisfying revenge, is quiet, deliberate, and undeniable. I began with the evidence. Every email Mara had sent to doctors. Every falsified report. Every casual remark she'd made about money, insurance, or keeping me out of the loop. I made copies. I recorded Lily speaking in her own words about her mother's instructions and the manipulation she endured. Every scrap of proof was organized, time-stamped, impossible to ignore. Then, I sent the evidence to the right people. Doctors, therapists, the school. Each received a package labeled clearly, anonymously, and professionally. There was no room for dispute. Nothing could be dismissed as a misunderstanding or a miscommunication. Next came her husband. He had been her accomplice, knowingly or unknowingly, in the manipulation. I sent him the evidence as well, letting him see exactly what Mara had orchestrated, how she had lied, manipulated, and used everyone around her, even their daughter, for money and control. Finally, the truth touched Mara herself. I didn't speak to her directly. I let her realize the walls she built were collapsing around her. Calls came from doctors, lawyers, and school administrators. She received questions she couldn't answer, accusations she couldn't deny, documents she couldn't manipulate. Every carefully constructed lie she had woven for years unraveled silently but completely. And Lily? She flourished in the calm aftermath. In a routine school assessment, she was asked a question aloud. Without hesitation, she answered. Clearly. Confidently. The room went silent. Teachers exchanged glances. Pediatric specialists confirmed what I already knew. Lily's voice had never been gone, it had been silenced. Mara lost custody. She lost the house. She lost the narrative she had tried to control. There were no dramatic confrontations, no courtroom meltdowns. Only consequences. As for me, I found peace. Revenge had not been about anger, it had been about justice. About showing Lily that fear and manipulation could be overcome. About proving to Mara that lies, no matter how carefully constructed, have a way of catching up. I sit now with Lily, watching her laugh as she tells me stories about school, friends, and dreams. Sometimes, she asks about her mother. I answer simply, gently. Some people love themselves more than anyone else. But that doesn't mean we can't be safe, happy, and loved in the right ways. And as I pour a fresh cup of tea, this one made by my own hands, I smile. Because justice doesn't need fury. Truth doesn't need shouting. And sometimes, the sweetest revenge is the calmest one. We drink our tea together. Warm. Safe. Full of choice. And that, I realize, is more powerful than any betrayal could ever be.